All right, I believe you.
It's Buck.
Everybody coming back? Hey, Buck.
Oh, there you are. It's a first Buck.
Okay, we're going to move back into our regular meeting session at 6:29 p.m. It is, once again, still July 25th, 2023. Items to discuss for consideration. Oh, I'm sorry, I moved ahead of that, didn't I? Discuss executive session if necessary. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding items discussed in the executive session, section 551.071, consultation with attorney on interlocal agreements. We had some action on our fire marshal interlocal agreement. We've put together a very nice package to go back and agree on services and costs, and we're going to present that to them, put that together. Our attorney will work through it. And Dee and Richard, who is a former firefighter, did a great job putting that together, and it's a good and fair agreement. Anybody else? Do you have something, George?
We're gonna make a motion?
Yes.
Should we do that first or before
Go
you?
ahead.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement for fire marshal services as amended.
I'll second.
Seconded by TJ. All in favor? 4-0, passes. George, would you like to talk?
Yeah, with the, just on the interlocal agreements broadly, with what happened yesterday, I think it's a kind of a sad time. I thought we had a good agreement with the hot tax money. I thought we had a workable agreement. And, I hate that, apparently they failed to contact anyone and discuss any potential problems or issues. I just think I think it's in bad form. It's in bad form to cancel an interlocal agreement summarily like that without speaking to anyone about it. I think it's in bad form for the taxpayers of the city and the taxpayers of the county. And, I hope we can still recover it and move forward in other areas.
Okay, thanks. I will say they did contact me, but their decision had been made at that point, and that it was already scheduled for vote, so.
Did they contact you regarding issues?
No, just that this is what we're doing.
That's what I thought.
And I appreciate your comments anyway. Okay. Item 3, individual items for consideration. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding an ordinance amending speed limits in school zone hours around our near Glen Rose Independent School District campuses and other matters related thereto. Will you state your name?
Wayne McKevin. I just wanted to, I'd sent out an email almost a week or two ago on the results of a traffic study that we did prior to the termination of classes in the last school year. It was a tough situation that we had to get in because it turned out to get 3 streets done. Even the company we were talking to couldn't do it, but Stephenville stepped up and they had 3 monitors and they came through for us. We were able to get those and we put those out between Friday, May 19th and Tuesday, May 23rd. So it went over 2 school days and 2 weekend days. And I assume you have the results of what happened, but it was the places where we had the monitors was 805 College, 300 Mary Lynn Street, and 900 Stadium. Okay, those were they were put out. At 805 College, we had 899 vehicles come across those monitors. At Mary Lynn, we had 2,341 vehicles come across those monitors, and at Stadium, we had 3,907 vehicles come across those monitors in basically 3.5 days. And so the results were that the vehicles that were exceeding limit at College was 69.74%. At Mary Lynn, it was 93.72%. And at Stadium, it was 84.69%. In other words, everyone was exceeding the 15 mile per hour speed limit, which is probably not surprising. Okay. The average speeds, or the mean speed exceeding, was 19.85 miles per hour. The median speed exceeding was 17.4 at 805 College. That's a little bit above almost 20. Okay, and when they're exceeding, that's the people that's saying, I don't care what the sign says, I'm gonna go my speed. And it's right at 20 miles an hour, okay? At Mary Lynn, vehicles exceeding the limit was not, mean speed exceeding limit was 23.1. They were a little faster, okay? They're trying to get to Dairy Queen quicker. That's one to figure out.
Yep.
And the median speed was 23.3. And then at 900 Stadium Drive, the mean speed exceeding 27.2 and median speed 21.3. It goes a little fast for those speeding, and those that are speeding said, I don't care what the sign says, I'm going to go what I want to. So they were pressing up, and in fact, I might have hit one of, I think it might have been up to 29. Okay, so it was right in that 27 to 29 speed limit, so they were pushing 30. Okay. So looking at the results of what we saw, and it was over, the time, what we need to do, the range of speeds was a little bit concerning. Now, monitors have a problem in that depending on what type of trailer is hooked onto a pickup and, and what type of car comes across, it's it doesn't quite get the right speed, but, it's close, and so you take about 9, and so the speeds, there's some outlier speeds, but there were some significant speeds at Stadium that were a number of speeds that were higher than we would certainly want. And I've mentioned to Buck, we need some extra money maybe, because let's park a police car there doing some of these, and I think it's in times that the school's out. But it seems to be some speeds going very quickly. I'll just give you an example on what I was finding on Stadium. The maximum, we saw speeds, we saw 114 cars measured between 62 and 68. Okay. We saw 56 cars monitored, and that's not just bad, it was just a bad read. That's a lot of cars.
Does that give the time of day of that?
No, well, I don't believe so. They give you the number of cars
I can
per
tell you when it
speed.
happens.
Yeah.
It happens between about 9:15 and midnight.
But we saw 56 between 68 and 75 miles an hour.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy, okay? So we're gonna look to maybe put a police car there and see what the heck's going on, okay? Because I'm assuming it's Saturday night and Friday night
Sure it
type situation. And I don't know, that's a lot of cars that's coming up at that rate. So,
What day didn't we have these during the weekday though?
well, there was
Ran over the
Friday
weekend.
through Tuesday.
Friday through Tuesday, okay. If that is correct on here then.
Well, to George's question, that we I know when we were looking at doing a time study before, they said that they could provide the time to us. So perhaps if we go back and ask, just for a benefit of, it wasn't necessarily something we had identified as a need at the beginning, but the results have demonstrated, it would be helpful to know this, and they may have captured it
I
if they.
think we can assess what that probably is, but in this situation, for our kids'
Yeah.
protection and making the right decisions, I think we need to be able to take those high speeds out and say, okay, it was-
Yeah. And so what this is telling us, I believe, is that the citizens appear to be performing around the 20 mile/hour speed limit during school times. And in between 25 to 30 in that range, or almost 25, when it's outside the school times. We have a trick here, and I was wanting him to maybe get up and comment about what he wants and what his thoughts are, if you wouldn't mind.
To be honest with you, 20 or 25 outside the school zone is more of y'all's, ours are more during the school zone, making sure that people slow down. Obviously, get some crazy kids that are driving pretty fast down Stadium Drive. And, we would love to see, the only way that we have, or my experience in slowing people down is speed bumps. That's the only way in school zones, and that's down Stadium Drive, that would help us a ton. That's inconvenient for a lot of people, however, that would be a way to slow them down. Something else that we would like to see as a school district is, during the school zone, would be whether it's lights or on the signs themselves, so that people are aware that's, it's not between 7:30 and 4:30, it's just when it's blinking and people don't have to read a sign or anything like that. But as far as whether it's, 20 or 25, school district, we don't have a strong opinion about that. Because we understand, we don't drive 15 miles an hour on Saturday afternoon when you're driving by the elementary school, we understand that.
TJ?
So, is the school's preference that it stays at 15 during the school day, or during that 7:30 to 9:30 and 2:30 to 4, whatever the time frame that you want, and the rest of the time you don't care? But you
Yes.
want it 15 during school?
I mean, I don't know what the
Most schools are
option is.
20, so that's
Yeah, I
why,
think that's fine.
during the school, to have 20 during school, the school times, not 15, bump it up to
Correct.
20.
Yes, ma'am.
And then after school, it can be bumped up to even 30 when it's
That's too fast.
or
Yeah.
25.
That's too fast.
I think we need to be
Well,
cognizant that.
in our city ordinance, the streets, except for the ones that are specified, it says that they are to be 30 miles per hour, but it does have some specified. I went through all of that this morning. But 20 is so much better than 15 even. I don't, 15 during school, but if people aren't driving 15 when school is in session, I don't know that they would continue if the lights and everything, maybe it's your children, it's not, but you know what I mean, it's your children. We want to make sure that we're in conjunction with the school. We want to keep it safe for everybody. We're going to follow the law, and no children are going to get injured.
Anything else?
Well, like you said, we have pre-ordered some 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. We'll have those up, but for signs and, that are solar, that flash, we're gonna have to order those and get those in, and the time frames and so forth. And so what we wanted tonight was to define, if we're in agreement, the ordinance is written with an agreement. And here's something I didn't realize. Stadium Drive is on school property, right? Would you explain that? Stacy, you had said how.
It's surrounded by the school property
Yeah,
for its entirety.
okay, but it's still considered a city street, right? So we can still assign it.
May I ask a speed bump question? So, as anyone who perhaps has a slightly heavy foot might know, some speed bumps will slow you down. Some speed bumps, the faster you go, the smoother the bump goes.
That's what they say about the ones on Grace.
I've heard. Let's see
I
that.
haven't done it.
Do we have the ability to, are there limitations as to which speed bumps we have to use, or can we make a choice? I hate the big ones, but those work. But do we get to make that decision, or is that something that has laws written around it, has to be X, Y, or Z? Do y'all know? Just
Chief
curious.
Martin, you know anything about that?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, we can figure that out.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to budget for speed, honestly, those smooth speed bumps harm it, are more than good. So it would be a moot point if we can't do the other kind.
So we'll look at, what we can do to put in the speed bumps too, and come back with a recommendation on that. But we're gonna have these signs up if you say 20, and then whether it's 25 or 30, that's up to the council when it's outside of school hours.
So I have a question on the ordinance. We are excluding Allen Street and Mary Lynn.
So the way the ordinance appears in the book, these are special speed limits. These are ones that are set below 30. So Allen and Mary Lynn are set at 20. So that's just removing them so that they would go back to 30 outside of school zone hours. Does that make sense?
That's too fast, guys, I'm telling you. Too fast.
I actually lean that way too, which is surprising me. But.
And I'll tell you why it's too fast, because the soccer clubs, the little league football teams, they all use the school's properties because they're the large open areas,
Yeah.
and there's not quite enough space to park. You know, because they're parking on both sides, and then you're coming in between it with one row of traffic on, not so much on Stadium, but on Mary Lynn. It's just, and really, it's
heavily walked
it's
off.
heavily walked.
Yeah.
I should walk it more, but it is heavily walked as well. You're right. That 30 is too fast on Mary Lynn. Personally, I think it's too fast on Allen because Allen is so short. Allen just comes from Bernard Street to Stadium, and you go up a 15% grade.
So what if we moved it to, I mean, if we're taking the schools, we're taking away the 15 and bumping school zone to 20, which is what most towns have their school zone at, and we put it, say, 25 non-school zone time.
Just not trying,
I
15 actually, again, as somebody who has now driven a kid to every single one of the, well, soon it'll be the high school, in a few weeks. But having driven all of those, I actually, 15, I have never, not even struggled with 15 during the school time. Like it's, because we have so many running, because we have a lot of kids that go like, okay, I'm gonna drop one kid off at the elementary, then the other kid's gonna walk over to the intermediate. There's just a lot of foot traffic around there during school hours. I'd be cool with 15 during school hours, and 20, it looks like the data is saying that 20 is what they're driving, right? Other than the speed demon. So you've either got folks who are totally going, I'm gonna do what I want, or you have folks doing 20. So 20, 25,
Hang on, guys, let's talk one at a time.
that's it.
was if we kept it at 15 during the, what are the hours? 7:30 to 9:30 and 2:30 to 4?
Yeah.
7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 to 4.
Yeah, we're offering 7:30 to 9 and 2:30 to 4.
So kept it at 15 at that and then bumped it to 20 even at the off times. I know
We
from,
started this process because 15 was almost going back.
So that's exactly what it is right now.
Order 20 mile per
It's
hour.
15.
no, it is 15 miles an hour.
It's not marked correctly. It's 15 and 20. Those signs are wrong.
I asked him.
Oh.
I asked him. He said it's 15 all the time.
It says school zone 15.
They didn't put the signs in.
Ah.
Yes, it's
So
15 and
it's
20.
15 and 20?
It's
So we
15 and
made
20 right
I'm
now.
comfortable at 15 and 20,
That's what they're
and let's
doing right
enforce
now,
the
right?
speed.
It needs new signs.
And
But
so-
it's
There is a
15 and 20
question about
currently.
15, is it legal or not, right?
I asked about it.
Raised an issue about that.
It's the non-school zone hours
Yeah.
that could be sticky.
Because there are cities, not this one, that will put a speed limit extremely low and write lots of tickets.
Yeah.
And that had-
The
and that
state
had a-
sets what the
And that
minimum,
had a real impact on as I understand the state legislator, and there was some discussion about, okay, let's make it reasonable, okay? And so we did not write tickets. In fact, we were sort of allowing 20, to tell you the truth of it.
You know, perception is this, if you go out there and you go to 20, when we've been all driving 50, I drove 16 one time. But if you're driving 15 and you go to 20, you're gonna feel pretty good about that. And if you go to 25 for off hours, that's not excessive, but you guys,
Okay, I do know this, my cruise control won't even go at 15 because it's too slow. Because I've tried to say the speed limit by hitting cruise control and it won't even set it.
The cruise control in the hood?
Listen, it's easy to go fast, and then go, oh my gosh, and then slow down. And so I tried to be good.
all right, anything else up here?
We just need to figure out the speed.
Mr. Overbo, you got anything else?
And we're,
Chief Martin, you got anything, wisdom?
The 2025 sounds.
That was the staff. I'll just put
That's what I said,
it,
it aligns
the
with.
staff was thinking 2025 was the reason.
20 school zone, 25 off.
It's too fast.
We're so old.
No, it's not, I'm not old. I just see kids darting in and out from those
I know, you
practice
got a different
fields.
perspective.
They're there all the time, guys.
How do we feel about just 20 across the board?
Well, I think we were trying to
I mean, yeah,
differentiate
yeah.
and make it so people will actually pay attention to the school zone.
Did you say that they're driving? Because I agree. I think the distinction here is many times a school zone is only active during school time. And then afterwards, you've got it over here. But in this case, our resources are so limited, like George was saying. I've basically almost ever only used school property with stuff with my kiddos. So we have a lot more activity around it in off-school hours than others do. Wayne, can you remind me the numbers? Are they driving 20 right now? Because the other thing is, if we can maybe shift a little to where we're aligning with what people are already doing other than,
Yeah, like
party nights.
at Mary Lynn, the mean and median is around 23.
Okay.
And the ones exceeding are going 20, a little faster, but in
You had some
vehicles
going
exceeding
like
on.
99.
Huh?
Didn't you say she said 75 and 99 miles
Yeah,
an hour on a
but
couple
that's
of-
probably outside, they
They're
didn't,
not gonna pay attention to the sign.
there was some late evening
I
when.
told my wife to stop.
And then, 27, mean speed exceeding, on, Stadium, and 21, just median of all the things. So they're in that 20, 25 range. And I said, that's why we sort of came up with the recommendation of 20, 25.
I do drive both. I go
Yeah.
up Allen and Stadium on a regular basis, several times a week, and I go up Mary Lynn several times a week. And for the most part, there is not outside activities all the time. There's just occasional.
But these are median speeds that are happening now, and
When
we're
it's
not
15.
having
Yeah.
a big, children aren't being hit dramatically. And so they're already driving that, so we already know that that's not happening at these speeds at the 20, 25 range. And that's the key of why you do a traffic study is in fact, and we did this just to raise it, not because we were having problems with what the speed is. I'll just put that out there as some logic, okay?
I like that. I don't know, we don't have that on the agenda to vote on that part, we just to accept this amendment, and I would hope that we,
I thought we were gonna get a speed.
well, it doesn't say that in here.
To do what, I'm sorry?
Were we expecting, I was expecting them to.
Yeah, it's in.
So we can go put some signs up, yeah.
That's the other matters related there too,
Okay,
on the,
well, then I will make a motion that we accept the ordinance as it is, and to do the speeds at 20 during school during the times that were suggested, and 25 at other times.
Have a motion?
I'll second that.
Second. All in favor? All against? 3-1? Ordinance. Placed active. Thank you for coming and speaking to us.
Excuse me, Wayne, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Even though we've already voted on it, just on this matter. I know initially we talked about discussing Highway 67 with TxDOT. Did
Yeah,
anybody?
that's right.
So-
It says-
Yeah, it was just too involved, we'd have, no, I can't talk.
well, I was saying, no, hold on. So whenever I was looking for all of this stuff, they actually approved like in 2001. We have a map from TxDOT for like Erath, Somerville, Johnson, showing the school zones they were going to put in. And we're on it. It's also in our ordinance that we're gonna have a speed zone on 67.
Okay.
So I think somebody just needs to follow up with TxDOT to see
Okay.
when they plan on doing this, since it's been 22 years. But they did approve one 22 years ago. So,
Very interesting. Yeah, helping out. However we can help out with that.
Appreciate that.
We would.
And,
We'll get
Can I
on it.
sign that to you?
and those signs with the lights are pretty expensive. Can we count on the school to help us with those perhaps or not? Okay.
We're gonna be,
Who should I sign to follow up with TechStot?
well, we're
They're gonna be at a meeting on Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh,
so-
okay.
so We'll discuss it with them on Thursday.
Thank you, Dr. Overbell.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, Wayne.
You bet.
All set there.
I'm up for the next one. too.
Okay, before year end, 23-24 budget.
No, this is.
Go
So
virtual.
we're going
Go
to
virtual.
go virtual first.
I wanted
You want to
to
introduce that?
introduce, yeah.
This-
I can tell you that we've had some experience in Granbury that we were very pleased with. And in fact, they help Granbury right now. Go Virtual CFO, Doug Martella is here. And I actually talked to the mayor about an operational decision that they are helping us with the production side of the budget, okay? Because, you know, I'm a thought guy, I'm not a computer guy. If I was doing all of the computer work required to put these budget presentations together, we'd have it ready sometime in February, okay? So it was an operational decision because we needed that skill set. And they've been a tremendous asset for me personally while we were putting this budget together. They have the expertise to have the expertise to know things that you need to know that the latest law changes and stuff like that. They keep up with that because they do. How many cities, Doug?
16, 17.
16 or 17 cities rely on them and what their whole theory is small cities, and this is true, can't afford a finance director, okay? And so there are finance issues that come up that I think you've seen while I'm here that I've been able to handle, that they also have the expertise, okay? And that's one reason I have brought them forward to recommend them is when I got here and I sat down and I said, okay, let's go through the financials and let's go through going through the financials, and I was able to do that. But when we got to the budget, Stacy wasn't here when the budget was put together, okay? So she had not participated. And the questions I was asking, it needed, Michael had gone, and it's not criticism. This is what it happens to small cities, is they go in a room and they put the budget together, okay? And nobody knows what's in it. I mean, not really, okay? There's lots of ways to move numbers. And so when I'm not here, I wanted Glenn Rose to have financial expertise that could follow. He knows exactly how we put this budget together. He was the central production point. I flowed everything through Doug, okay? So Doug can answer questions just like he does answer for Springtown, name a few that you do.
Springtown, Coleman, Alito, Childress, Hondo,
Coleman.
yeah, a few of them.
Okay, and so I wanted to bring to Glen Rose what we would call management accounting, okay? We have financial accounting, it's very good. They do very good right now how we produce it. We produce the financial pages and fix it. What we want to do, and what I put on your desk there, is an example of what they call a dashboard, okay, that gives you management information. I think I left mine over there. I wanted to, and I'll let him go through that presentation, okay? But we basically would like, and you have the contract as well, and it's a small investment to have more internal control brought to Glen Rose and have people looking at your numbers and helping you through the financial situations, working with us. And I'll go into that in the budget workshop. I mean, I called the auditors this week, or well, last week, actually. and went through them some theories on how we're doing our budget. Got their agreement, and they agreed, they thought it was time to do some of those things. And so they have that same type of expertise. And so what I want to do is turn over to Doug. He'd like to make a presentation.
Doug, if you could state your name, introduce yourself. Now, we do have time limits, but we're gonna have a little attitude here.
I'll be short.
Okay? I'm gonna start my clock.
Okay, Doug Martella. And like Wayne said, I'm come from Go Virtual CFO. That's our company. Well, that's my division of our company. Our company is actually called 820 Consulting, and we provide different kinds of consulting services to small cities of Texas. The Go Virtual piece is just my side of the business. And altogether, there's, I think, 6 of us now. Former local government, city managers, finance directors, ACMs. They created a piece of sales tax software that is in over 200 cities now in Texas. And this is my division, that's their division. But we have a lot of experience across the state in different realms of city government. So a little bit about myself personally. I used to be a government auditor for 7 years, and then transitioned to be a finance director in the city of Hudson Oaks. I don't know if you're all familiar with Hudson Oaks a little bit. No property tax. So it was a little interesting escape there to learn how to manage a city without property tax, without that base there to sit on. So that gave me a lot of experience doing everything from utility billing to payroll to court to finances to city manager stuff. So it was a great experience for me. I left there. My wife's a basketball coach, so it kind of happens. So I left there, but I still maintained the business with them and started off small, and it kind of grew from there. And as he said, small cities in Texas just had a hard time finding finance directors at a reasonable price, and I feel like we offer that type of service to fill that gap. So that's basically what we do. How it works, kind of in the nuts and bolts. Most places have cloud systems where we can log in and see their financials, or VPNs and stuff like that. We do bank reconciliations, which I know might not be here, but for now, but deal with your auditors, prepare the budgets. So being a former auditor, I tend to try to just make all the journal entries ahead of time for them. Internal controls, and then the lovely financial dashboard, which has been a common request of city councils that we deal with. Typically, they like to see one page snapshots of where we're at, whether it be monthly or quarterly. It really depends on what the decision is. But I think they like to see bottom line, where we're at, how we're doing, cash balances, how much we got in the bank, all that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about me, about our company, and what we do for some small cities in Texas. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Did you say how long virtual CFO has been going on?
So the 2018.
Time's up.
I'm on the question part now.
Go ahead, bro.
I was watching there. 5 years. So 5 years been doing the virtual stuff.
So one of the opportunities that Wayne highlighted was business continuity, and that's massive for our town. We continue to identify gaps in that planning. So is the same person assigned so that it would be the same person year over year? Are there notes that are taken? How do you ensure business continuity on your end to kind of balance that we don't always have that?
Yeah, that's kind of one of our things. We don't quit, right? We're always there. Right now, it's just me. So I'm handling them all, but we just hired somebody part-time to kind of help me out. So that's going to be a big help for me, but I'm still kind of the face of the contacts and the communication between city managers or city staff and myself.
And do y'all keep everything backed up as well? Meaning, I remember one of the things that we saw at the recent TML was, I'm going to knock on before I say it, a city hall burning down and, losing tons of stuff. And they talked about some of the business continuity planning they had put in place that kind of helped mitigate the ramifications of that. So do y'all keep stuff there? Is it just on the cloud, the notes of the things that you're doing? So how do we get in your head? Then,
Typically something like that, well, your ERP is on the cloud, right? So that's taken care of.
Yeah.
But some of these other documents, like this budget document, for example, yes, I have it on my machine, but it also goes back to your machine. So it's kind of in two places all the time. I try and copy everything over that I do so the city has it in case something happens.
beautiful.
Councilman Walker?
On your, which, you hadn't discussed the contract or anything, but my question is, you've got a monthly fee, but does that monthly fee include, we need to talk to you maybe every day for the first 4 weeks? Is
Got it.
there's not an extra charge, we don't have to pay you $50 an hour to call you?
No, that's kind of the perk.
Okay.
Honestly, texting is the way most city managers go. So they'll text me if like, hey, I need to call you, or hey, I got this problem. That seems to be the easiest form of communication when we get on the phone or get on Zoom or whatever we need to do. So yes, I try to pride myself on making myself available all the time. So
Not at midnight.
it happens. It happens.
Hey Doug, this services that you have here, is this a smorgasbord or is it required because you rely upon the earlier bank reconciliation to be accurate going forward, or can we select?
I'll put it this way, I guess if we started off with like an a la carte type of thing, and then we kind of moved to, we'll just include everything because we tend to find that people call about everything. So I know here's a little different because you have somebody doing bank recs, which is great. But yes, like doing something like a dashboard, I would rely on them being complete.
Well, knowing trash in, trash out, our information has to be accurate.
Right.
Continue, so I understand that, but just in the interest of cost, process, we do have some good processes.
Mhm.
I'm not sure we need it all, but anyway, any other questions? Appreciate you coming, and we will be visiting again, I'm sorry.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Item number 5 on our,
We don't have
we're gonna take a 3.5 minute break. I'm a man, I know what you're doing.
Okay, and in my agenda packet, it ends with 4.
Because we'll go to budget. There's nothing.
There's no attachments because you have them.
Okay. Well, he said item 5, and I was like,
I don't want to stop you in the middle of your speech.
No, I hate y'all didn't have it because it's a good study.
We got everybody back here, Stacy? Okay, we're gonna reconvene after our break. I love that. All right, item number 5, budget work session for year end 2023, 2024.
Okay.
We have a scheduled speaker.
Mr. Moore.
I'll step back.
It won't be more than 3 minutes. Ryan.
There you go.
Spend all the time here. Okay. Dennis Moore, 301 Mission Street. I've been on the transit board for about 4 years, and Danny Smith is a employee and driver for transit. And the reason I'm here, I've been talking to Dee Dee, the manager, and we are hoping to get some hot tax to have a shuttle on Saturdays that runs hourly at every major hotel. We stop in the downtown, stop at the Expo, maybe the Bernard's Mill on the hour, initially on a Saturday. I don't have all the details right now. I'm just kind of throwing the idea out to y'all while you're all working on budget. We do know for one, our as far as monies, it's $1.50 a pickup, drop off and pickup.
So $3 round trip.
Right, and we're asking for hot tax to fund this, and it's free to the people staying in the hotels, because they are paying the hot tax. But it would,
Just for clarification, what, is that an on-off? Or every time they get on, it's $1.50, every time they get off, it's $1.50?
correct, $3.
if they're not staying at a hotel, but if they're just somebody just wanting a
But
ride.
it's primarily gonna be hotels, because it's a shuttle to the hotels. They're gonna be going to the hotels and then to downtown and Expo and possibly Bernard's Mill. But it's mainly for the hotel, people staying in hotels, where they've got a shuttle to the downtown, the Expo.
And the money you're wanting is to purchase the van?
No, we've got all, so we're just ready to go. We're just asking for money to pay for the provide a shuttle to the.
Another question. Why wouldn't we take them to the venues, to the, like, a drop at Expo,
That's what we're saying.
a drop at,
We
hotel?
would be every hour.
Oh, I thought you said just hotels.
No, we'll be picking them up at the hotels and we'll be making a round from
Oh,
all.
so you're not,
This is for the hotel, people staying in hotels.
so you're running more like
Shuttle service.
The shuttle,
it's not a loop.
it is sort of, we'll be every hour. We'll be going to every hotel, stopping at the Expo, stopping in downtown. and
So
coming
would
back.
hoteliers provide them with a wristband or something to identify that they were?
I've been talking to J.C. Stone,
Uh-huh.
and he's on board with this. We would probably have some sort of map set up, maybe the next time there was a map producer in the CDD, it would show all the points, the stops. And you'd know, I can leave the hotel at 9 o'clock, if I want to stay downtown 2 hours, I'll be picked up in the downtown, it'll run every hour.
Can we get to Oakdale, to Dinosaur Valley too?
I don't know, I mean, I'm just,
Down the world?
it's possible, I'm just throwing this idea out right now, because
I love it. I think
it's just
a
an
great
idea right now.
I think it's a.
We've already got everything, we've got the employees, we've got the vehicles that are perfect for it, everything's insured, they're all trained. It's just a matter of this hot tax purchasing the rides for those people staying in hotels.
Councilmember Walker.
So I had two questions. Do you know how much money you're asking for? And is this something that hot taxes can be spent on? Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I think so because it's providing for the hotels.
I think there's some nuance to it,
Status.
but yes.
Will you be presenting this request to the county as well? Because those are county, many of those are county entities that they'd be going to, so there'd be some benefit to them.
We can. I mean, I don't know if I'll get anything from, I know since they're dividing up again.
Yeah.
I was just trying to hit while the iron's hot.
Right, yeah.
While y'all working on budget. And just throw the idea out, because I really don't have, it is $1.50, $3 pickup, drop off.
But you don't.
If we did 3,000 rides, that's $4,500. If we did 5,000 pickups, that's $7,500 for the year. It'd be on Saturdays, starting. If it grows, we could increase it Fridays. Granbury does Fridays from 4 to 10, Saturdays 9 to 10, I believe. I mean, we're not saying we're gonna do it that way now. I'm just kind of throwing the idea out to y'all. I know tonight's not the night to do that. It's just give you the idea, put it in your head, and I'm just excited, and I've got a perfect spot right by the museum there. We have a handicap parking place there with a big wide, that could be the shuttle pickup right there.
Okay, we'll structure it, look at it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's progress. Richard?
Just more, you may have said it, I may have just missed it here, but is there, I know you're just saying Saturdays, but what was the time frame that y'all are thinking of?
Granbury,
Thinking-
Initially, we're thinking like maybe 6 to 10.
Thank you.
you talking about Saturday? 6?
Oh, I'm sorry, I think Friday nights.
Oh, okay. Well, wait a minute here.
That's probably 10 to 9 maybe.
10 to 9 on Saturdays. I was just initially saying a Saturday, and then if it shows it's working, we can go to Fridays. And they do Sundays some in Granbury till noon. But I'm just throwing it out to you. We don't really have all the details. I do know it's $3 for pickup and drop off. And you could base it on, we were throwing it around today saying 3,000 pickups and drop offs in a year. But we don't know yet because it's never been done. So it's kind of
It'll take a while to build up.
yeah, but I just think it'd be great to have a shuttle and maybe eventually we could go like State Park. I mean, work that out. I mean, that'd probably be a little more complicated, but, because typically they're in a car, they're in Fossil Rim and State Park, they're in their car, they're camping.
Positives, you think of the restaurants and the regular
Yeah.
establishments.
And then when we're having the wine festivals and moonshine, that type of thing going on, we could go longer and get those people right home at the end of the day.
Safer, yeah.
And it's already there, it's already set up, they don't have to, say, call anybody, it's gonna stop there at, last stop's at 10 o'clock.
All right, thank you, Dennis. That's a great idea.
You would add something, Mr. Smith?
I would like to add one thing, just keep in mind too, that all of our 18 passenger buses and our vans, 14 passenger vans, are all equipped to handle wheelchairs.
Right.
walkers.
They're all,
So
it's all up
nobody
to state standards. Everything's ready to go.
All right, thank you,
It's a
sir.
great idea.
Start.
Work out some more details.
That's up to y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
We'll come back another budget time.
Thank you.
You introduce yourself, please.
Again. Wayne McKevitt. Okay, what we, what I would, I guess, what I'd sent out an email, hopefully y'all got this, that had all the information for this. But, the list of the email that I sent out, the first one on topics for discussion was the acceptance of the proposal contract just to be put into the budget. Now, I'm assuming then that y'all are in agreement that we could utilize those people going forward in the budget. So the first topic for discussion, acceptance of proposed contract with Bill Barrow, CFO, for inclusion in the 2023-24 budget.
Do we need to make a motion on that, or?
No, because the budget, we're just telling you to go ahead and add stuff to it.
Go ahead and add.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable adding it with the understanding that we need to still do some background, some references and those kind of things. But from a budgetary perspective, I'm comfortable budgeting it.
He's already utilized.
I've already done the references.
Yeah.
Remember, I recorded,
Oh, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's right. You're the
Yeah,
reference.
He's already,
no, but also I contacted like 5 different cities. I don't know when we first talked about
Right,
them.
that's right.
I'm
Anybody else?
comfortable with you putting it in the budget.
Was that a motion or?
Wait, so go ahead and put it in.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
we're
ahead and
not
put
gonna
it
make a
in.
motion because we're just talking budget.
Okay.
Pass them.
All right. So the second would be addition of the CDB department to the budget process. I've attached a example, well, it's not an example, it is the budget that Kelly had come to my office last week and discussed of what she was preparing for 2023-24. And so it does show 400,000, over 500, I guess, revenue. And then if you look at the expenses, about half of they were planning on only spending $320,000. That's on the second page, total expenses. And I talked to her about that, and she said, well, we've got to, it was a desire to increase the fund,
So
okay?
that when something happens.
So when something happens, we'll have more. And so, but if you see the expenses, about I'll just make an estimate, almost 2/3 of it is salary and benefits. Now, those salary and benefits are going to go away because they're going to stay with the county, okay? In terms of the existing salary and benefits. But it adds up to over 200,000 of the 320, okay? And so what we're going to have to look at and is what type, and I think what we could have as a discussion maybe to help in the budgeting process to go forward is, I don't think we necessarily are thinking about a staff that size.
Correct.
And I think, Mary, I think you had mentioned some things that we might do in terms of getting work done. Chamber?
Yeah, working with the chamber, maybe funding a portion of that as appropriate. And, we're gonna have a lot of ideas, but
Yeah, that's just one.
Do we know, and if I'm missing it on here, I apologize. I know that when we did the interlocal agreement, it was calculated approximately 80% of hot taxes collected within the county total, 80% was here in the city limits. So this number, that's the budget number, could we assume that 80% of that is the budget that we're gonna have to work?
No,
with?
that's our portion.
This
This is just our portion. Okay.
That's 80% of the 500.
Okay, got it. Thank you, okay.
And, they're gonna, and I even talked to Kelly today, and she said they're gonna have about 100,000 now.
Mhm.
I don't understand the numbers on this, but those 3 people are gonna be there at the county. And I think there's gonna be some redistribution of responsibilities to help. The fact that their revenue is much smaller. I don't know, I'm not in that budget process, but we will have the 400,000, and she confirmed it to me. And so we need to look at how we're gonna spend that.
Okay.
And that's gonna be the, where we're gonna go forward. I'd like a little direction on, do you want to search for a CVB director? Or do you wanna do other things?
I don't think, that was gonna be my question to you from a budgeting perspective is, should we need to shift where the resources are allocated, how they're spent, as long as it's hot tax money staying within the functionality of what's allowed for hot
Absolutely,
tax?
absolutely.
So if we budgeted for a CVB director and a CVB assistant, and we end up doing something different, that's okay. So we're not beholden to those line item breakouts.
No, but she pretty much laid out, it's gotta be advertising or something.
But that's my point is.
Something
how do we
related
do
to
this
heads and
accurately?
beds.
Because this is, but that's my point, is so like, let's say he said that we planned for 60,000 in advertising and 10,000 in tourism shows, and we decide we wanna flip it. So the numbers aren't spent in the places they're aligned,
Yeah.
because the new director would make those decisions,
Right.
that's okay,
Right.
as long as.
Yeah, as
We're staying
long
in
as
this
they
big
stay
bucket.
within the big bucket, yeah. And, for example, is, you can't redo sidewalks, okay, with this money. That's not heads and beds.
No, we know I think there's 5 places.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
That would just budget 400.
I think that
Submit this budget as is, and, yeah.
we should at least try to put out there to see if there's any interest of CVB director to get somebody.
I think ultimately that's the way to go, but what if we can work within the chamber? And
Isn't the chamber volunteer?
they are volunteers, but that doesn't mean we can't pick someone there. I mean,
Well,
Al's
that
very
person
capable of.
could be the CVB
No,
director.
that's his point, is making
I-
not a city employee, but a contractor whom we pay to do services, and it takes, and alleviates.
I think we need to crawl, walk, run on this
Yes.
kind of approach. I'm very uncomfortable with where we're at, but I also don't want to just open it up and say, let's advertise for a CVB director, because we really don't have we don't even have the job description
Right, we need
kind of
to
like
have stuff
ready
we
to
have-
be able to move forward. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people who could do contracted work for us. We could do a number of those things. We don't know how big of a residual from the county or from the city hot tax dollars that they're going to be remitting back to us from previous budgets. They'll find that out whenever they get into their audit. We don't know what we're gonna have in the way of, assets. What are we looking at actually receiving back, from this dissolution? So I think that jumping ahead to try to find an employee when we don't even know, if we have a computer and, is a little bit, ahead of the game. So I would be a lot more comfortable with, exploring some options. Let's brainstorm what we think we want and what the hoteliers have requested, and how do we accomplish the things that they have asked us to do, or what they could ask us to do. I think that's a much better approach for us to be able to then say, okay, here's the request, how do we accomplish it? Do we accomplish it with a contracted employee? Do we accomplish it with a contracted company that handles these type things? Do we look at it as an employee who has part-time responsibilities for other things within the city? You could blend this into a piece of your economic development position. You could blend it with a piece of a public information officer, someone to handle our social media type aspect. So I think there's a lot of pieces that we could explore before we have to commit to, just run out and hire somebody real quick.
We don't do what we've always done.
We have to do due diligence and get the job description and do all that stuff. It's gotta be somebody that can do the traveling, that can advertise, that can go places, that can do things.
For the purposes of budgeting, can we just submit this as our budget? And then, because I think we have again, we can evaluate exactly what we'd like it to look like going forward. And that may mean something completely different, or that might mean the exact same thing, but I think it's gonna take time to come up with that if we wanna hear from other voices and those kind of things. So as opposed to try to rush that process to get this done, I'd say.
Let me
let's
say one thing. I was talking to Kelly, I was asking her some questions. The advertising per se, okay, is she has gone and asked them to break it between city and county, okay, in terms of the cost. Okay, probably 80-20. She didn't get into it, but she says that contract's gonna come due November 1st. We're gonna be responsible, okay? We can either say we don't want that advertising, or we need a mechanism to pay the bill until we decide whether we want that. In other words, to keep it going. And I think that's probably, and so if we put this in the budget, the money's there to pay for the advertising on an ongoing basis, and then we can always do a budget adjustment once we figure out how far we want to do. I don't think we want.
Let's just put it into the budget for the,
Yeah.
and leave it at that, and we'll disperse it as needed. I will tell you this, just so Stacy has taken the initiative to pull out job descriptions for Kelly and a couple others, and we're gonna put those together and look at them, and with your work, you can look at it and design it like you want it, if need be. But we've already put some motion to it, okay.
Okay. And so that's what we'll do. We'll put this into the budget that we have. Okay, the next topic is the capital budgets. Okay? Capital budgets, you have that list, you have them, the list, I like mine. What I did is I went and asked staff, and I sort of asked just around, what is it that capital projects, when asked of the staff, what is something we need? Okay, and you can see right now, this is potential because we have got some cost numbers on some of the projects, especially in the utilities that were amazing and much higher than we'd expected. But let's just go through them. That this is the universe of possible capital, and ask to see if there's any others that you would like. To add on to City Hall, we believe that it's time to do it. Now, when we say this, the budget is put together right now, balanced, okay, through operations. And there are no capital budgets other than the ones I've listed here. I've listed it in small print. There are costs for Encode systems, City Hall, HVAC, PD, PW, and ACO security cameras, and Barnard Street sidewalk, because those were asked for in some of my discussions earlier, okay? And by staff. And so there's about $275,000 of capital in the general fund budget right now.
For those few things.
Yeah. But now, adding on to City Hall, now what, it goes back, and I've had this discussion with you as individual council members, that we do have a unassigned capital, okay, that was last year. Last year it was in general fund, it was $6 million. In utility fund, it was $4 million. Now, and as we've talked about, the city normally handles or keeps about 3 months of total expense to be able to handle tornadoes and so forth. And so we have quite an additional amount more than that, okay? It's more like 3 years instead of 3 months. But the whole point has been to accumulate this money so we can do something for the citizens, okay? And so we've talked about that, and that's what I had to talk with the auditors, was to move unassigned capital to committed capital. Now, when you have committed capital, It is simply it's not spending the money yet, but it is reallocating it to a position where it is ready to be spent on specific projects that will help the city. Okay? It doesn't, I mean, there's no, but that means normally for long-term and more expensive type of capital projects.
But what's the problem with it sitting where it sits now? Because what my understanding, what sounds like what you're saying is if you put it in a particular space for use for a particular purpose,
Mhm.
well, oftentimes that purpose, like these sidewalks we've been trying to get done for 2 years, that doesn't get done. Whereas if you leave it in a space that you have the flexibility to use it as the need or the opportunity presents itself. So what's,
Well, that's what this does. It puts it where you
Okay.
can call on it when you need it.
okay,
You put it in the annual budget, it bloats your budget,
okay.
okay? And all of a sudden expenses are huge
So
and,
even if it's not in your budget, you can still use it at any point? I feel like I'm missing it.
yeah, no,
Okay,
it's by ordinance, okay?
okay,
And so
Got
the
it.
city council will control it at all times.
got it.
And any particular monthly meeting, you want to have an ordinance, let's go spend this $2 million, let's get the contracts and let's spend it. That's what you can do, but it doesn't bloat your budget where you're trying to look at financial numbers that has all these expenses that are never going to get spent.
Got it.
And they cross years, okay? And this won't happen in the budget if it's over in committed reserves. And you can uncommit, okay? You can pass an ordinance to uncommit. You can change the components of it. And that's what I was talking about, is making sure about all this. And it's just a better way to keep your major capital expenditures separated from your operating budget, okay? Think of it that way, okay? Instead of it messing up your numbers. So, those types of projects that we had was added on to City Hall, we are growing and we're going to continue to grow. Additional office space, council chamber, mayor council office, conference room, employee break room, storage for City Hall, possibly a 2-story in the parking lot, okay? The reason we say another council chamber is it would separate the council chamber from the operational offices. Right now, people come in, they have access to go to any of the offices. You could secure the operational offices so that they came to the chamber, and there. And these types of things where you have conference room, okay, mayor council office, when we have executive session, you would have normally it happens in cities where the council goes to a conference room to have that, and the citizens stay seated in the council chamber. And that way you don't have to have them out in the hallway, okay? That's the normal process. Here, we just can't do that because we don't have that yet, okay? So that's why we put that, is to put a council chamber for separation and for more efficient use of people's time and the whole council process. So,
Well, we also have another opportunity here that might lighten the load on this, which is we now have a CVB building that we have space that can be used in different ways. So I know I talked about it, I thought I had, but I very much could have had it in my head, about having in the budget item, having an item to ensure that we can make some revisions and updates to the CVB to match this so that they feel like connected, congruent buildings, and then we could have city council or city use upstairs so that that's a space. Like I go meet with people at restaurants and try to find, okay, when's there going to be the fuse to have conversations, but we could use that second floor of the CVB for the CVB building for city spaces.
yeah.
Mayor's office.
Yes, and so this is simply, the space is so precious here in terms of, you really ought to think going up if we can, okay, and using that space, and then still having enough parking. I don't see that parking lot full very often. I mean, every once in a while it might get that way, but and usually it's from people going to the store across the way there.
So do you have, like, each one of these items, do you have possible dollar amount?
No, but what I've done, I've sent this list to APRA, okay? And she's working on it, okay, in terms of cost. Right now, this is just simply, is this something you want us to pursue? And and Peloton has agreed to start working on it.
I know that our preservation board was looking at, or having discussions about sidewalks on the square. And so whatever those conversations are, know that I am in full support of us figuring out the best way to go about doing that and providing a public-private partnership or whatever opportunity there is to make sure we have money budgeted for that as well. So I wasn't sure if that was part of the CBD, the Safe Routes School Grant,
Yeah.
that thing's been.
I was having the discussion with her when all this stuff happened.
Yeah.
So, there's plenty of money there, I think, especially once the salaries are removed, to put that 50,000 in to do the CBD, okay? Especially early on,
Can't do
No, I'm sorry,
sidewalks
I meant to
with
say,
CBD money.
I might have said CVB, CDG, whatever the grant, the safe sidewalk,
Safe routes to school.
thank you, that guy.
Oh.
That safe routes to school grant, I don't think it includes the sidewalks, but I also
No,
wonder,
no.
but I also wonder if there's a possibility where if we're doing both at the same time, perhaps that can affect the cost. So maybe we
Yeah,
can,
okay.
like, the grant isn't paying for it, we're paying for it, but hey, while y'all are out here, perhaps that can help in pricing if we're.
I did put
buying.
100,000 in for that Barnard, that Southwest Barnard sidewalk.
Sidewalk
Yeah.
to the water pump station.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
talking the whole square.
Some of them square.
Wait,
Okay.
Southwest Bernard? Where are you talking sidewalk
By
on
the-
Southwest Bernard?
Kind of from Grace Street
Yeah.
up to the
That's-
pump station.
That's northeast.
Okay.
Well, whatever, you know where it is.
North.
Well, when he said pump station, I was, wait a minute, you said southwest, that's over here, over
I
there.
said southwest, northeast.
Okay,
So yeah, but no, I'm thinking the whole square, like, and that's a tricky thing because it's private
private
property,
owned.
it's not ours, but we can, no, but we can, for one, they have to, they have to maintain it. So for those that don't maintain it, it's their responsibility to maintain it, and we could very easily say, you need to fix this. That's not necessarily the hand, I'd like to carrot instead of stick, but we can stick if we have to. But we can certainly start with a carrot of, let's incentivize and we pay a portion and you pay a portion. And we certainly have to work with the preservation board on making sure we're meeting all the right requirements and those kind of things. But
Yeah.
that, I would certainly like to see that in here.
I would think kind of the first thing is, let's make an assessment of which side we want to work on first. And
Yeah.
then just, try to concentrate on one side initially. And then,
But Jim,
well, then you
yeah.
have the state highway to have to deal with.
Right, yes.
We may want to consider upgrading the electrical before we do the sidewalks too.
Then you may talk to Wayne about giving him those numbers.
Okay, so the next project we have was demolish a concrete tank in the round building on Vine Street, and then building a long-term storage office space building on Vine Street. We on that now. I'm hearing I heard today that,
No, forget that language.
okay,
We went in and looked at the circle building. I have a tenant that's looking for space. He really wants space, and Stacy took me in there. And even I
no,
put my
it's-
mother-in-law in
it's
there.
We are putting a lot of our important documents in there though, okay, right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's one we need to really,
So just for clarification, we're not talking about demolishing the old city hall, only taking out the water storage tank.
is the old city hall Buck's office?
Yes.
do it.
I know, we're talking about that water
That tank,
storage tank.
that
Taking
round
out the
tank.
tank only,
Yes.
leaving the building.
Now, would that have to go through?
No.
historical?
It's outside the historic district.
It is?
It's Spine Street.
But you have to be careful with the historic district. Just because you think that building might be outside of it, if at one time it was brought into the historic district, there are houses and buildings that are not within what meets and bounds that are within the historic district. So there are buildings that are historic that are on the opposite side of a street that says maybe the southwest is, and they're on the southeast. Southeast building may be also historic.
Well, I think we'll be very cognizant of that and not do anything that violates that, but
I'm
we need a
just,
budget for it.
I'm just giving.
Yeah, that's an example of what,
Example.
obviously, boundaries within the historical district.
And I was gonna make a comment if I could, Mayor, about the sidewalks, because we've talked about it.
We give you 1 minute.
All I was gonna say is that is an item that preservation is working on and trying with code to send out our letters with our annuals. So that's all I was gonna say. We are also
That's a great
addressing
idea.
this along with the city, so.
Okay, so we are interested in demolishing that and putting something up that would be demolishing that old tank like behind.
Council?
I like the looks of it. I mean, to me, it's a part of that.
But it's,
Just step
it's
inside.
moldy and it's starting
Is
to,
it really-
the
There's a
floors are
health
getting
issue
soft,
there.
yeah, like it's dangerous.
Let's fill it in.
Awesome.
You can do that.
That was, what Jim and I discussed, and he said before they've done it, just dose it in on itself and fill in the rest with whatever, so.
I hate to see the,
It's not
Agreed, yeah.
The
If there's a way we can make it safe, even non-functional, but safe.
area, the building beside it.
Everything in it's dilapidated.
well, it's all concrete. There's nothing in it except concrete and concrete walls and a carpet that's this
stairs.
thick.
Jim, do you think we could just fill it in and then it's not in use, but it's not gone? Do you think that's feasible and?
I'm a lot of
I'm not sure how that would work. I think the last one that was done, there was one across town that was built similar to this one, and they basically tore it down and put it inside itself and
They
then filled
imploded
in
it.
with people.
And I haven't been inside, there's no way to redeem it? You don't think?
Look at
I mean,
That's
you
wrong guy.
could, but what would we want to redeem it for? Because that's kind of what we had
Because it's
the,
historic.
that's what we had
Because
the
it
discussion,
was
yeah.
part of the original.
I was
Yeah.
wondering if there was a way to go in and clean it out and make it into an office. Maybe even add to the top of it. I
It's
don't
great
know.
climate controlled,
Yeah.
not 64 degrees year round.
I don't know, I've not been in it. I just know it's like,
Well, you gotta remember, it goes into the ground, so you're gonna have ADA elevator, all that kind of stuff to get it, because
And that's
it'd be a
downstairs is
multi-story.
storage.
How about let's hold, and those of us that haven't been in it, go walk in it, and then we can make a more educated decision? Jim's like, go walk in it and see what you think.
The reason it came up is because we were talking about having shortage of storage space.
Yeah.
Right now, all of our records, our permanent records are sitting above an 8-inch water main.
Yeah, that was actually gonna be my question on
So
today.
that was just something where like, we don't use it, why don't we do something, we build something that matches the historic vibe and use it as storage.
Wayne, do you have an amount attached to that?
No, these are ideas.
I don't see any harm in getting numbers in front of us, and I didn't see anything on this list that was unreasonable.
I don't either.
And the 23-24, real quickly, the 2024 CDB project, street construction, we'll talk about that one, Jim. I think you want, from Webster, Clay, and.
That's one that we applied for the grant, I guess, right before Michael left. And so we don't know if we've received the grant or not. We won't know that for a while, but there's a $50,000 match if we do get the grant, so.
Okay. We just had it on there just to keep it in front of everybody, because they had a grant coming. Gaither Street reconstruction project with sidewalks, that's the one we were talking about coming down from, the school, right?
From northeast Bernard to Highway 67
Okay,
on the east side of the junior high campus.
okay.
It's just, there's no curb and gutter, it's just asphalt. We try to pick out a street a year to do some sort of improvements on. We were wanting to knock that one off the list and add sidewalks on one side or the other.
So how would we get the land acquisition?
Just have to purchase.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not looking at eminent domain type, we want sidewalks, give us your land, we're looking at trying to purchase it.
I think one thing that would eliminate it, we had, Chris worked up that estimate, right?
Yes.
The estimate he came up with on that one was 1.3 million of that sidewalk.
For the sidewalk?
For the whole
That
project.
includes the land purchase, the whole
I
thing.
mean, it's still a lot, but
That's a lot.
No, I think that's land acquisition,
It's
street
also,
improvements.
it's also the 24-foot wide street, yeah. Face of curb to face of curb with,
Which I'm
Yeah.
not sure that's wide enough next to the junior high school.
I think we could honestly maybe move that one off the list.
I have a suggestion that maybe we could back burner it, but let's look at going to the west side. Let's fix our drainage, fill in that ditch, put in storm drain, and make it a project that we could maybe get a grant for, and maybe could we storm drain? Go to the west side,
That's the east side you're talking about.
that's east, but that's west. So the school's on the west. The houses are on the east. Right?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's on the Cleveland side.
Yeah.
The houses are on the Cleveland side, the ditch is on the west side.
Gaither is the street,
Yes.
Blue Thunder.
Yes, I thought you were saying the west side of the campus.
No,
You're talking about the ditch on the west side of
Yes,
Kansas Street.
yes. Let's increase the scope of the project, fix a drainage problem, potentially put the sidewalk on over that drainage. And let's get a little bigger scope and maybe could we qualify for a grant or something, work out with the school.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And this isn't covered at all in the safety sidewalk thing, this area?
No,
Even though
it's
it's a
not.
sidewalk.
There
access.
wasn't enough right of way there to squeeze a sidewalk in. So that's why that portion of the project.
But Jeremy said he would work with us to find the money to fix those things. So let's
For a sidewalk grant,
keep working at it.
yeah, I don't
Maybe.
know about the storm drain and the street project. I don't know if we can qualify for a grant there.
Maybe?
I think that's based off of the income of the residents in that area, I think.
And we just received notice, we received another 710,000, I believe, on the safe routes.
Yeah, for the transportation alternatives.
Transportation alternative, that's the next one.
All those sites were already determined though.
Yeah, they are, yeah, the transportation alternatives. Okay, well, we have, and I discussed with the auditors, if we do 3 million, okay, that would cover the city hall and some of these other projects in the general fund. But that was probably the max is what we want to have to move to committed and leave the rest of it unsigned, okay?
Are
Now,
you including the utility fund expenses or just
no, just the general fund projects. So we will go and get, most of that money will be spent on the city hall and, I believe, and maybe office space or the, the demolished old concrete. But that Gaither Street is so expensive, I don't even know, I wouldn't want to use 1.3 million necessarily. I mean, y'all.
Well, you wouldn't have to do the whole street. You can do a portion of it.
eat this way.
But we'll work on that. But what I'm hearing you say is that you would like to see it more as a drainage and sidewalk.
Well, just because we have a problem there, I mean, we have an open ditch, and we could pick up 4 feet by covering that open ditch with a sidewalk if we fix our drainage problem.
Okay.
Well, and on some of those, and I don't know about that particular street, but you don't have to necessarily do an expensive underground storm system. You just cut the street down.
Yeah.
But, Chris would have to look at that. I don't know if that's an option on that or not.
It would be a less expensive option if it's a viable option, correct?
Most likely.
To
to do what you just suggested.
Yeah, usually that's cheaper.
You know, I think we ought to just stick to the budget amount, and we'll decide.
Yeah, okay.
3 million?
Yeah, yeah, and really, that's all we have to come up with, okay? We're supposed to come up with a list and then the cost. But, you know, it can change too. So it's not like you do this and it's there forever, you know, you just. So what we're looking for is for us to go figure out, prioritize the projects here with $3 million. That's what I'm asking. Does that sound reasonable to the council? Okay. The utility fund now has about $4 million in unassigned service. And if we do half, which the auditors thought was reasonable, then we're much more limited because we do have some costs on, that we got, when, today? Is that when you got it to us, I think? Yes. On those, projects. Do they have copies of that, or we don't have that?
This one?
No. Oh, while we're thinking about that, you know, one of the projects we had was, that we have on here is to paint the, water tower. And basically, it is deteriorating quickly, okay? And try to paint that. The cost on that is $90,000. Does that give anybody any concern for doing that, or is, I mean, it's a landmark, I agree, and it really stands out to, you know, say, hey, we're a quality city, and.
Or it could.
But, huh?
It could.
It could, so.
I look for the water towers and when I'm traveling down the road, just even to see what town I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, I think a water tower is very important.
It's a landmark here for sure.
It
Yes.
is.
If we put our logo on it and the city of Glen Rose wrap around it, I think it looks sharp.
I mean, this contract says it was from July of 22. Did we
Yeah,
not?
she has confirmed that it stayed the same, right?
Yeah,
I thought we had already
We had
approved to get
it
it
was in
done.
last year's budget, it just hadn't been done.
Well,
Didn't get done.
if that's something that we have in the budget, do we have, that 90,000 still in the budget? Is that something you want to go ahead and do now? Okay,
I'd certainly always want to defer to our preservation board to make sure we're doing it right. There isn't anything that we should be doing differently, or any steps that we need to take or
Sure.
what have you, but,
because that is a historical landmark that we have to go through the historical commission, but we could start that process.
It didn't get that designation, did it?
Y'all refused to give it because you didn't want to bring future councils with the maintenance of it, but you're about to dump $90,000 on it for paint. I would suggest that you make it a landmark because you're fixing to put maintenance into it. So if you do that, I'm willing to call a special session of preservation, just as I did for another one, and we can make it a landmark.
Okay, folks, what do you want to do about it? You want to start it?
Yes. I think it needs to be a.
well, no, I think we need
Yeah,
to
well,
follow
we'll start
that.
that process.
Yes, that's right, yes, sir.
Okay, so, Mayor, would you like for me to retrieve the paperwork I've already done that's been made for that night? I've already done the paperwork.
I must
I
have
didn't
misunderstood
remember it
something
being
that night, because I thought there was something like, then we were going to have to,
It was, I think the standards would change on how to maintain it. It was easier for us to just do it, or we could get rid of it if it became too much of a problem.
I wouldn't be in favor of making it a landmark. I want to keep it and I want to protect it and I want to continue to maintain it. But again, I don't want to be bound by something that in 5 to 10 years is going to be really onerous. And those other councils are going, gosh, why do we do this?
how do we protect it?
If it's a landmark, we
Continue
can
to
get
paint it.
grants
We-
to keep
we-
it.
we-
See, there's the deal. If it's a landmark, we can get grants.
$7,500, it was like $7,500. It was insignificant. It was an insignificant grant that we could
It's
qualify
been
for.
allowed to deteriorate for so long, it's gonna cost us this much to fix it. And then if we keep it up, it won't be as expensive. It's up,
The paint jobs are that much, no matter how old it is.
That's right, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
We just spent $130,000 on paint. That's less than 20 years old.
I'm gonna let Jim come up. Okay, no, I'm gonna do this first one. Okay, that's really, as long as we're all in agreement of leaving the Encode system, the City Hall HVAC, the PD, PW, ACO, security camera, and Barn Street sidewalk in the budget. Those are good projects that, a total of 275,000, and we could get all those done.
And did you put those numbers in? I didn't put them into my budgets. I just gave you the numbers.
Yeah,
It's
we
not in the-
created an account
Just want to make sure.
for yours and also for the
And
sidewalk.
was expensive.
Okay.
We were gonna look at options on the security cameras, right?
On the AV in here. Security
sorry,
cameras would be
You're
the
right.
same that did the ones we had.
Gotcha.
Okay, utility fund, I want to address this one. Purchase of land across from city maintenance center location. Jim came to me with, our maintenance center is over behind the old gas station over there. And when I heard it, that's a great way to spend your excess funds, is to build capacity for the future for your maintenance operations, okay? And we don't know what the cost is, but we know what the tax value is, and here's the issue, okay? When I heard it, I agreed. I like the idea of spending it on improvement. It's almost 1.5 times what the size of our maintenance operation is now, okay? And it already has structures on it, because it used to be used by who, the county? What was that? Who used that? That land?
Tech center. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the land that we're looking to purchase.
Behind the maintenance center.
Behind-
I'm not sure what it was. I think it was like a lumber.
Was it a lumber thing? Okay.
what's the
Well, here's-
address for this land?
Here's the issue, and Jim and I, we approached George. George didn't approach us, okay? But George's family owns that property, okay? And he was like, this is gonna be, but it's a great expansion for our maintenance operation. He gave me an example, okay? We are out of space at our maintenance operation, so we dump materials up on well 3, okay? And then we have our backhoe go all the way up on streets to get to load dump trucks, okay? That kind of inefficiency is going on right now, okay?
Is there a legal requirement, like for purchasing property? Is it just like, hey, this is the calculation that's done to make an offer?
That's what we have to go through. Right now, I'm just bringing up the issue, and I
Just to
talked
see
to
if there's
George about it,
guardrails.
and I've talked to the mayor about it, and they said proceed, and that's what I'm doing, okay? And you're absolutely right, there has to be certain procedures done, and we're gonna look at the market value of that property and go from there. Now, but I need the input from the council on the issue. Don't you agree, George? I mean,
It's a very awkward position. My father bought that old building in '73. He ran his law office and title company out of it until he died in '80, and we kept nothing. There's no business enterprise going there. It's just a storage facility for our family. But yeah, I mean, I talked with my brother and sister, and they said they would be interested in selling it. And when Wayne approached me, I said, I need to talk with them and find out what their temperature is. And I said to him then, I said, we're gonna need guidance from Stan in how to navigate this. So that's really all I feel like I should say.
No, we will keep it transparent and arm's length, and
Yeah.
it'll be done right. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
So I will proceed on with Stan and getting the procedures and getting that addressed. We might want to look at, it says build additional maintenance facility. We might want to improve there's already some big facilities there, and maybe it's just a matter of improving. We'll go and get the cost of that as well. Water system tie-in for well 2, 3, 4. I would like Jim to explain the next 3 projects, because he's more familiar with all of the, the costs there.
So one need, I guess, was identified a couple of years ago. We had a water storage tank that actually ruptured, and we had to have kind of an emergency type meeting and approve the funds and build a storage tank quickly before that one ruptured and completely spilled out onto the ground. So at that point, we started looking, years before that, that was the first tank that we put a PVC liner inside of it. So to prolong the life of it, but it kind of kept us from being able to do a visual inspection on the interior wall. I mean, you could see the PVC liner. It looked like everything's great. Well, behind it, the condensation had pretty much sped up the degradation process of the metal. And so we just assumed that the other tanks that have liners in them since then are probably deteriorating pretty fast too. So tank sales and service rep told me that those galvanized bolted tanks are like 20 to 25 years life expectancy. The one on the hill, I think, was built in 76. So, I mean, I don't know if that statement was accurate. I think that one was lasted a lot longer than she thought it should, but it doesn't have a liner in it, and it needs to be replaced. There's another one out by the amphitheater that has a liner in it. So we were hoping to budget enough money to just do both of those at once. We budgeted to do this one this year. The process hasn't moved as quickly as it should. And so my question to Chris was, if we combine 2 projects into one, would we save money? And he said probably 10 to 15%.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So basically just mobilization. They're moving in a crane, they don't have to move it in but once. So that's one of the projects that I had listed, was to replace 2 different storage tanks.
Do they do the liner still, or are we not doing that?
We haven't done that, no.
So that going forward, they would not be liner ones?
No.
It's like coated with a special coating, right?
That's what they sell now, but I'm not buying it. Learned my lesson.
What did the one cost us up there in Wolf City?
It was about half the size, so that has a lot to do with it, but inflation has driven the cost way up. It was about $330, I think.
That's what I thought. It's over 300.
Yeah. So that's one of the projects, and I think it was 2.2 million
For both?
for both.
That's still crazy, but yeah.
So if we did that, I mean,
But one of
because
them's in the shoe.
Wayne was just talking about 2 million, so
One
if
of
we,
them's in the
2.2
shoe.
for both of those, we've got one of them budgeted already.
Right.
And how much do we have budgeted for that one? Do you remember?
I believe it was around 800.
800, I think.
Yeah.
Was that for 5?
That was for well 3.
Three's the bigger one. So. Because that would take all the money, we wouldn't have any money left to get the land or to fix you a new storage facility, maintenance facility.
Give it away.
The water district want to buy it?
So then another project that we identified that's a really important project is well number 2. That's just across the bridge over here going south. That well the way our system was designed, it works off of elevations and tank levels. Well, that particular well site doesn't have elevated storage, it's a ground tank. So when all the other wells are contributing from the hilltop, they come through a pressure reducing valve into the bottom of the lower level of our city here. Well, when that pressure drops during peak demand, well 2 has a pressure indicator on that one. And so it reacts when the pressure falls, demand goes up, pressure falls, that one kicks on. So the problem is the demand is not high enough for that thing to get consistent use from it. So we want to kind of redesign the system and have well 2 working together with another well to fill a standpipe, which would make that well way more useful, way more adequate. So that project, and the engineers think that can be done. They're saying that project, he's estimating to cost $319,000. Basically involves putting a water line from that site to up the hill. We were hoping to reuse the same booster pumps. I don't know if that'll work out.
Is that water quality tested poorly?
So is the issue right now that we have water that's just sitting there and not getting used?
Not right now, because it's 102 degrees.
Is the issue that we're trying to solve?
In the winter time, I have to babysit it.
Okay,
I mean, I can run the pumps manually, I can do it from my phone, so I just have to go in there and make sure that it runs some. Otherwise, it would just sit there.
okay.
And we end up with a well that's off and a tank that's empty and nothing's happening, right? And that's what happens.
Yeah, or you end up with one well that runs all the time and one
Right.
just sitting here not really working
Yeah,
at
not
all.
working.
That's the point.
And the tank the elevated tank isn't full. We need to fill it up.
You also have water rights that only allow you to do so much. It's like, let's spread the work out evenly.
Got it.
And here's the way to look at it financially. We already have $850,000 in this budget today, right? Is that what we said? Okay, that 850, if we don't spend it, will flow into surplus. Okay? So even though the surplus right now is 4, if we're trying to apply some funds to these projects, if we were to go higher than 2 million, the 800,000 would come and backfill it, okay? Whenever we close out our financials at the end of September.
Yeah.
So that money can still be used to meet our project level. And that's why we're looking at those 3 projects right there are real important.
Oh,
You
yeah.
go a little above it, and if that surplus isn't spent and flows into if that extra money that didn't get spent on the tanks or whatever it was.
Well said.
Yeah, we don't get it, we don't spend it, it'll flow back in and refill. All we're trying to do is get back to 2 million of unassigned surplus. So if we could do that, and the cost of the property to go ahead and lock in that property that's near maintenance, the maintenance center, those are probably the only projects, given how much these things have increased in cost. We didn't know this until like today, whenever we got it from.
Oh my God, one of those tanks is my age, so it's
Yeah.
probably fair.
Those are very.
You look a lot better in that tank.
Thank you. So yeah, that means.
Well, the water tower part, that's already budgeted.
Yeah.
It's already in the budget, the money
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, so that's not.
So that's not even,
But we can do that, and then we can go do
Yeah.
these 3 projects. He still has an issue with we don't talk about sanitary sewer trunks.
Yeah, there's a sewer main line on the east side, coming into the east side of the wastewater plant. So it comes from Camelot, kind of near the amphitheater. There's a 10-inch sewer main that snakes down through there and it crosses at Longhorn Drive. So, we put in a sewer lift station out at Tres Rios. It has a 10-inch force main. So we have a 10-inch force main intersecting into a 10-inch gravity flow, which is fine for the time being, but when that area to the east starts developing, I foresee that to be a problem. And so that line size needs to be increased from Longhorn Drive over to the sewer plant.
And we may just be able to hold off on that. You know, it's one of those things that those lines are old too, right? They could also deteriorate. This cost of it is $970,000. If we were to do the expanding the maintenance center property, buying that property, and doing the 3 projects, the water projects, and letting that 850 reimburse us, I don't think we can spend another $1 million. We could take the, you know, the unassigned down to $1 million in the fund, but you know, it's probably safer to keep it at $2 million.
I don't think there's any harm in doing the diligence to find out what all of these are gonna run, and then we can say,
Just make the
yes,
decision.
no, 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 yes, no, 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 and,
We'll get the cost, and we pretty much have the cost on the sewer, on these others.
We're doing good on interest, getting interest rates back. Well, some of the interest that we're making on some of our accounts and stuff be flowing back into either one, to the general fund, I expect, but will any of that interest be flowing back into the utility fund?
So it's just a bank account, so we pay bills out of pool cash. If we need to pay something else that we need more money in our pool cash, you know, kind of pull it in. So it just sits in the account, makes interest. It's not.
Right, but I said the interest, the actual interest money that we're getting, I mean, I've been seeing the reports, and it's like we're getting.
It goes back into that
In that
account.
account.
Yeah, it just stays in that interest-bearing account. So, and then when we need it, we move it over to pay for something, but otherwise it sits there.
That's why I was wondering, would any of it go back into, is any of that interest being earned on utility fund money?
Yes.
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 So utility.
We have
fund
utility
will be
fund and
increasing
text our text pool. Yeah.
Some interest, the interest will go down if we pull this money out of it.
Yeah, and so really when you're saying utility fund and general fund, it's all the same
But we'll just.
money.
Yeah.
Well, we have multiples, right, because 250,000 is your
Yeah.
limit.
Hit on the water
But
study.
those are just accounting designations, so it's not like, you know,
we pull to pull from, and from that pool, we put some here and some there.
yeah, exactly, and so it's all there.
We got the money, the accounts separated, like First Financial, have they gotten the stuff done yet?
What, gotten what
When
done?
they were-
They will be, just so you know, Vicki called me, Monday and said they are now ready. And they're gonna be at the, I already made an appointment, I haven't told her yet. But we're going to bring them to, explain the project to move to FDIC collateral station.
So they're using Interfi just like Interbank is, it's the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Only right now, our money is based on city bonds like City of Houston, and I'm like, no, I'd rather have the FDIC protect our money.
Right.
And it simply breaks all of our money to $250,000 deposits at a number of banks.
Yes.
Which is how all of ours is, all of our money's protected.
And
by
then we
yes.
will have all of our money.
No, those are two. What First Financial is selling us is the exact same thing we have, but Interbank holds one. First Financial just got it. It's the exact same network. So we don't have any money that's at risk of losing anything because we're a city. We can't have high-risk investments with our money. That's why we have our text pool.
I thought we had accounts at First Financial that were over the 250, and so that's where we were trying to get this so that the
But
money could be.
It is, but
dispersed.
they break them up to keep them protected. They're not, we may have an account with 1.3 million, but they're breaking it up to insure us.
Okay, okay.
So just
When
because
somebody comes to us as a bank and brings money, we go, okay, here's how we have to that's not a good word to use. Here's how we have to format it so that we can make sure you
Yeah, I
maintain
just
your
knew we were
FDIC
waiting on
insurance.
that.
No, well, I think he's talking about some, We don't have anything that's not protected by the FDIC. I just want to make sure y'all know
Nothing is
that.
uninsured in our general funds or
Yeah.
all surpluses
It's just,
insured.
yeah.
Good, okay.
Well, we do now, but we won't after we move to that system. We have some money at First Financial that is backed, is collateralized by City of Houston bonds and everything else. That's why we talked to them about moving to this new system where it's protected by the FDIC.
Well, that was what I was understanding, that,
So the only ad that I would ask for the budget is the CDB, remodel or updating. But I'm comfortable seeing everything else and using that to make a decision on, because we might be pleasantly surprised by something, or we might go, oh, no way. So just those numbers will be needed.
Okay, then okay, there was two other things here that Jim thinks, and I do too, that we need an engineering study to understand our capacity for water levels. I mean, what is the water levels, okay? And we're gonna look at that, okay? And like you said, we're gonna go try and get cost of all these. And then the water rate study. The water rate study is very important. The utility fund has been hit harder than the other funds because of the cost. Like, which project was that doubled? The one that's 970?
Yes.
2 years ago, it was 540,000. 540,000. 2 years later, it's 970,000. Same project.
Which, that was never bid, that was just his projected cost. What he thought, his opinion of probable cost.
So all the infrastructure costs are just doubling, pretty much. And so we've got to do some of the stuff. But anyway, engineering water well capacities, we want to know how much water capacity we have, because how we deal with the water district. Okay, you're aware that they're going up 15% on our purchased water as of October 1st, okay? It is eating into our surpluses that we were generating dramatically, along with the cost of the infrastructure. So we've got to get a water study done so that we need to raise our rates of water.
I think it's inevitable for that, and I will just say Jim does a good job looking at the well levels and determining what we take from the water district and what we use. I mean, that's an important facet.
Yeah.
And it's our major resource. We
So
got
we're
it.
gonna look at that.
contract up, do we know?
8 more years.
Yeah,
Oh, sweet.
the 10-year.
Oh, no,
When-
I'll say I didn't vote on it.
I believe, no, it's.
And right now, our water quality is much better than the water districts.
Yeah.
They're having to put out notices, that it'll kill you or whatever, And so we blend it with ours.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is carcinogens, being discussed. So what we do though is we blend it so it's not an impact to our readings, And so and Jim does a great job of keeping our water where it's tested and we pass all the tests, so.
County can't say so much all the time.
What?
The county can't say so much.
No. And they're doing, and it's not severe.
Yeah.
See, I had that same problem in Granbury, is the state makes you say things
That's right.
that just really don't happen. And so I'd have to make the choice. Do I want to shut down my water, or do I go ahead and pump it, okay? And nobody died, okay? But they made me make that statement.
Right, yes.
Well, they died, we just maybe not because of the water.
Not because of the water, yes. And
I was
so-
that one.
Yes, I alerted all the hospitals, if anybody shows up with these symptoms, okay, let me know, I will shut down the water, but you gotta make that
Except when
decision.
except when it was COVID, then there was money attached to it then.
But anyway,
Everybody died.
you have to,
Everybody died.
Gavel.
Okay, that's, y'all go time.
All right,
That's
we got
fine.
that. We're gonna
Okay.
go with 2 million in there?
2 million in there?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll come back to a recommendation on the priorities of the projects. Okay, let's move on. Okay,
There, that's all the paper.
I gave you the budget presentation.
Yes.
Now, I have some information for you that I worked with Wes Rollin, who's the chief appraiser here. And he gave me a truth in taxation sheet that he works up, okay? And what it shows is, given the growth of our property taxable value, okay? Our property tax, the taxable value grew 16%. Okay?
Good grief.
Was this taking into consideration the $100,000,
That's not for
No,
us.
that's not.
That's school.
oh, okay,
That's school, that's not for us.
okay.
So when you go through the truth in taxation computation, it comes down to, they recently passed a law that said you can't raise property taxes 8% anymore. It's only 3.25, or 3.5, I'm sorry. So we are going to have to lower our rate from its existing level of about 30 cents to 27.8. Okay? To get the same amount, well, it's not the same amount, but 3%, 3.5% more. So that's what's called the voter approval tax rate. And, hold on a second, I got the,
So can you say that number again? It's going from what to what?
previous rate.
27.8,
Yeah,
30 we're at 30.63 basically.
27.8?
27.8 with the 3.5% increase.
Don't look at me like that. You know.
so that is the news, that is the limitation. And so we put that in the budget, and that's what's in the budget right now that you're looking at, 3.5%.
Okay, you had put in here for fiscal year 2024, we're proposing to maintain the current tax rate.
Well,
And
are you reading that,
page 2 of,
yeah, see,
He just got
we
it.
just put that in as a marker. I will actually write, okay? That is like a form letter that a lot of people use.
this
And
was in
he's-
the red, so I figured it was what you actually wrote.
No, I basically, I think it added some information that was there, but that's not the letter. I will write the letter when we have the final numbers, and I'll be responsible for that letter. Right now, that's just a marker to show that we're gonna have a letter from the city administrator about the budget there, okay?
So what's
And-
red is
and-
gonna be updated.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Cool.
Because it even has another city's name on it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, I should have warned you about that.
Is that,
Atasca County or something like that.
Yeah, but you signed it. See, it says Wayne.
I didn't sign it. By my signature.
Now, there's one provision, when we send out the notification for the tax reduction, I'll be signing those letters.
Yeah, good luck. It actually doesn't read that it's a tax reduction. It still
Right.
says tax.
No tax increase.
The good news is, for citizens, the tax rate's going down. The bad news is their valuation's going up, so,
Exactly.
some of them are everywhere lower rate, so. I just wanted to share that with you.
Let me say, I love this view. Like, love, the whole thing.
Is this something?
Like, as opposed to an Excel
This
spreadsheet.
this is
from the
what
gentleman
Doug
here?
did,
Yeah.
okay? I designed the worksheets. I went and met with the department heads, we put changes in.
Yeah.
And then he fed that information off the sheets into a pre-done format.
I'm gonna need magnifying glass, Coke bottle glasses to read it,
Nah.
but it's still clean and crisp and yes, yeah.
So this is from the virtual CFO?
Yep.
Perfect.
And it does have the numbers and it rolls up from the sheets, okay? If you'll go to page 4, we have balanced, and we had to work on it a little bit, even with, if you remember the process that we use, or that I use, and that I used at Bank of America, it was top down, bottom up, top down, okay? The worksheets with the 5% inflation built into it and projection of actuals, okay? And we're gonna load the July reports, the year-to-date reports here real soon. And those projected actuals have changed some. But we visited with the actual department members and they gave us numbers that they want that number in there. And so that's a bottom up. And so we took that number and we put it in there. And we're going to look at it, and we were going to look at it in terms of how that meets our overall goals, okay? because they had reasons, they have explanations that they wrote up, and they're here to defend anything you might have seen in there that you want to question, but that's the bottoms up. Now will go top down to make sure we meet the goals, like we're talking about the projects, okay? Right now, we're balanced, okay? We've got, if you look on page 4 in the 2023-24 column, we have a $651,355 surplus, okay? Revenue minus expense, you see that green column right up there at the top, and you see $651,355 surplus, okay? So we were able, when you call it balanced, we actually have a little bit of a surplus there. And we already had $275,000 in the capital fund. I mean, in the capital account. So really, we were gonna hit real close to $1 million of surplus, which is sort of what our current records are showing too. We're headed toward $1 million of surplus. So the utility fund is much more stressed, okay, and you look down the next column, you see it's a $34,091 surplus. But at least we got it to operationally balanced, okay, so that we could then look at our reserve balance for capital, okay. And we have ability to look here for some capital in the general fund too, since we have some surplus there. So that's sort of the overview that you as managers need to understand where we're at this point. We have a budget that could move after going bottoms up. So the top down, where the spreadsheets forced a lot of the accounts to be within that projected actuals of this year plus 5% for inflation, it worked its magic too, where it kept us in range, okay? So that when we put in the accounts that were very important to the staff and they wanted some more money for things, we still didn't get out of balance in terms of our budget.
You just mentioned 5% for inflation. Is that what we use across the board, or do we adjust for inflation depending on the area? So for instance, I would imagine that inflation for public works expenses would be significantly higher than the inflation that we may expect to see in the building official's office.
Yeah.
So do we just use 5 across the board, and where did that come from, or do we?
We can work with that.
Yeah, 'cause
It's one of those things of, right now, the utility fund is stressed more than the general fund.
Yeah,
And inflation's gonna hit in all the areas, but we may need some more inflation there. And so in total, we're looking at a $681,000 surplus. And maybe we spend some of the money for those projects that we might need. It's just where we're gonna have to come down. When we do now, we're gonna go, we have a month, okay, basically till our next budget workshop. But I think I'll be presenting you with things at the August 8th one too, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna update you on the progress, because we have till the end of September, okay? But, normally by end of August, 1st in September, you're pretty much finalized,
You know where
okay?
you are.
Yeah. So that's what our goal is. So I'll be presenting, hopefully, on August 8th.
I just had the previous conversation where, something's gone up double in 2 years,
Yeah.
or something's gone up third, and it seems like those things are typically in his world, not necessarily the cost of paper for the copy machine. And so,
Yeah.
if our big expenses are in that space, and that space is also where we're seeing our large year-over-year cost increases, and I just want to make sure we really are thoughtful with that.
Now, the process is going to be is we're going to go back and meet with the managers now that we have this presentation that shows much more where we're at, and we're feeling more about where we're at in total. That we're going to talk about some of the matches up and moving money maybe between areas. That might be something. But that's the top down, okay? The top down, bottom up, top down. Now comes the top down, and I'll come back to you with the results of top down to get to where we need to be. So that's sort of explaining the process. It's worked for me for 30 years, so I have a lot of faith in it. And I was really happy that we came this close to being balanced when the wish list, and that wasn't a wish list, our people don't turn in wish lists. They don't. I've been so impressed. They really have a reason why we need this, and I think it has been that there's been, y'all put a lid on it, you know, really good and built that surplus. But there are some needs, and the needs are correct, okay? And so, that's nothing wrong with that. I love working for a city that's got a big surplus. I mean, I work for cities that can't make the payroll next week, okay? Sometimes, okay? And that's a miserable, okay? This is really where you get to be creative and you get to do some things for your citizens. So I like it, so.
So I have some questions on this that you gave us.
I'm surprised.
I knew you would know it.
Is that
Besides the
specific
ones,
line item or?
yes, specific things in this budget that you sent to us, besides the ones already sent to you, 'cause I think you answered those. I didn't put the page number, but it has Oakdale's electric contract in here that showed 0. Are we fixing to be out of that?
So we're getting close, but it's a pass-through, so we pay it and then we reimburse ourselves when they pay us. So that's why it's always a 0,
Okay,
because we don't actually incur the cost. We do pay it initially and then they pay us back for it.
and we haven't had any problems with getting paid back. How much longer do we have on that?
I want to say 25, but don't quote me.
Months?
No,
Two
like
more
2025, yeah,
Like
2 more
2 more
years. But don't quote me. It's been a while since I've looked, that feels right too.
Okay, and this one, I do know it's back, get the page number over here. In the, this could be page 32. Whoops, there isn't a 32. It says there is right there. On the restricted court summary on page
State
30. We've got, it's over, they go into the red instead of staying in black. And it's $9,300 for court security. What is that?
It was a generated number.
Yeah,
We
that should
spent-
be a zeroed out number.
Yeah, we spent $6,600, okay, through June.
Well, I didn't know if that's we're paying.
Was that when we put
So-
that pass-through window in?
No, the court security, we paid for the security cameras here.
Okay, so that's gonna zero out, so they're not going to be in the red anymore on
Circle
this,
that one.
on page
Good
4.
catch.
They're $4,400 in the
Right.
red, so if we take out that $9,300, then they're gonna be.
Yeah. We don't have
They're
any.
gonna be in the black.
That number tends, because you can only use it for certain things, so it tends to just kind of build until you get something you can use it for. And so,
Okay, that one, that's good. And
Yeah,
the other
that
one,
makes sense.
I've already talked to Stacy about, so. That was my questions that I caught in here.
Anybody else have a line item they want to speak to?
I have a request.
Page 30.
George?
If, and I know it's too late to
What
make any
page?
impact, it's a general request. It's too late to do anything for this budget year that we are headed into, but you and I have had some dialogue. I'd like for us to consider increasing this old age and disability, our freeze from 50,000 and move it up a little bit more, maybe to 60,000 for our older citizens in the community that are, they have to be feeling the effects.
Now, I believe the state raised the homestead to 100,000, right?
That's for school.
Oh, only for school?
Only for
Okay.
school. It's not gonna be applied for us.
Okay.
We're still gonna be subject to the 20%, and then this additional 50,000 for old age and disabled vets are 100%. And you can't get any better than 100%, but for the old age and the disabled person, we could increase that a little bit more to another 10,000, 60. It'll make an impact upon next year's 25's, budget, but something for us to consider.
Yeah, we ran out of time before the thing, but
Right.
Wes even said, hey, after I certify for next year, y'all can come anytime you want to.
Yeah.
I'd sure like to see that.
I would like,
That would be-
Agreed.
I would like to see us do that. I think it, with a 16% increase in taxable value,
Right.
That's pretty
Yes.
stiff.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
if they've got homesteaded and they're disabled, their taxes are froze, but we can raise that and they will go down
that's
a
right.
little bit.
Yeah, they'll get a little benefit out of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're not gonna have to
Good point,
pay
George.
the
Yeah.
16%.
I just, I think it's, when we have new properties coming on the taxes, we have development happening within the community. I think it's an opportunity to help try to kind of lessen that tax impact or that valuable impact, for the older citizen. And the second thing, and I'm not in favor of taking the 3.5%. I'm just not. I'm not a big tax and spend guy. That's not me. I feel like just how I feel. That's how I've always
And
felt.
that rate for the same money, it's called the,
The effective
yeah, I think it's the effective.
rate.
That rate, yeah, it's called the no new revenue tax rate. They renamed it, okay? No new revenue tax rate is 0.2676, okay?
12676.
The 3.5% is 0.2788.
2676, and the other one is what?
The other is the voter approval tax rate that you can't go above this rate without an election is 2.788.
Delta in there, a little bit.
And I think my sticking point with this, guys, is that we're gonna collect over 2 million in sales tax revenue. Again, we're clicking 16 to 18%. The worst year we've ever had was like an 11% or 9% increase year over year. I mean,
It's a healthy increase.
it's a healthy increase, Wayne.
Welcome to growth. I mean, that's the projected.
And it's inflationary. A lot of it is inflationary driven. Today,
Yeah.
I stopped at Allsup's for a cup of coffee and 2 sausage biscuits, and it was $13. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yes.
You should have got one sausage biscuit.
you're right, I should have, but I was hungry. And it was 4 in the morning, I was hungry.
I looked over for the department heads, I looked over everything, and I didn't see anything that you guys had requested in these things that there was a problem with. Since you guys stayed for all of this, I'm just like, no, I did look at your stuff.
I'll let you know you're fine.
I'm good with it now, I'm only one.
Second time.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Okay.
Anything else, council members? Wayne, anything to add?
No.
We don't have any department reports in this budget meeting. Stacy?
Yes, sir.
It is 8:42 PM. Adjourned.
Are we ever gonna be used to